Welcome, A Pushers. Today we're going to be discussing how not to be awful at the short answer question, because maybe more than any other type of question, long essays or DBQs, this is the one that I see the most kind of head-shaking answers on. So much wasted time. So we're going to get into how to do that today. So in looking at it, one of the most important things that you can do on the short answer is to think about timing, because you don't have a whole lot of time, right? So the first part of the exam, you first have your multiple choice questions, then you go right into 4 short answer questions, which each have 3 parts each. Okay, so you've got around 12 total questions to answer with only about 50 minutes. Okay, that doesn't equal a whole lot of time for you to answer those. Okay, so really you only have about 12 total minutes each for those, so about 3 minutes per question, really. So you've got to get to the point, get in, get the points, and get out. We don't want you to waste time. There's a lot of different types of question stems that you're going to get, things that have sources, and those are going to be questions that usually ask you to analyze those sources. What's the meaning of document 1 compared to document 2? Why are there differences between 1 and 2? Well, maybe what's the author's point of view? Or what would have encouraged that author to write this at this time? That's why it's so important for you all to be doing your document analysis on a nightly basis and really trying to understand those, because that's where we get our points. We scored really well on that portion of the A-Push test last year, and I'm hoping to do even better this year. So there's also questions without sources, and those are going to be a little bit more straightforward, like explain a cause of the American Revolution. What was the result of the American Revolution? Last year, there was a short answer question on the AP test that said, name one reason the colonists decided to break away from Great Britain. Part B, name another reason. And part C, name another reason. So you could get a question that's technically asking you the same question 3 times. So be prepared for that kind of thing. This will be a little bit more detailed than your long essay or DBQ, more specific questions asked of you. You need to know a little bit more evidence to back yourself up here. Without specific evidence, your answers are useless. Other answers are more like a periodization, or thinking about the time period. Which of the following 3 events marks the beginning of America's role in the world as a superpower? Support your choice with evidence. To say why the other ones are not right. So these are the kinds of questions that you may get. Finally, Great Awakening, Red Scare, explain one's similarity, so may have to compare different time periods. Lots of different things that may pop up, and we should be able to see each one of these at some point throughout the year. So the first advice I have for you is that you don't want to be Shaq when it comes to the short answer question. Okay? You want to be Ray Allen. Right? So this is a free throw. You're not playing the whole game. You're not shooting threes. This should be your best percentage. It's a very simple process. Nothing's in your way. Step up to the line and make the free throw. You're just answering the question. You're dropping your evidence, getting your point, and getting out. So don't be Shaq, especially not Kazam Shaq. Secondly, do not be Faulkner. Right? If for those of you that are not as basketball literate, maybe more literature wise, don't want you to be Faulkner. You want to be Hemingway. Faulkner, known for stream of consciousness writing, as Faulkner is known more for dumping information on a page. You want to be Ernest Hemingway. You're not writing in a full developed essay or a thesis. Remember, you only have 3 or 4 minutes per section, or per A, B, and C. You don't want to write in quotes. That's very important. Right? So do not write in quotes or excerpts from the passage. I can't stress that enough. I don't want to see it. I don't want to grade it. It wastes a lot of time on your hand, and I've already seen those. Right? I've probably graded 20 essays by the time I get to yours, and if you take time to quote passages, then that's something I've already read, and I'm going to just zoom right past it, and you wasted your time. So don't do that unless they say that the only reason you should do it is to bring up an interesting portion of an image that may show some form of like symbolism or point of view. Say the author said maybe 3 or 4 words. You don't want to go onto a 3-sentence explanation. Also, vitally important, we're saying be brief, but you must write in full sentences. You cannot just write bullet points. The second you see those, you get 0 credit. Nothing. Okay? So you got to write in full sentences. The biggest mistake that I always see every single year, year in, year out, no matter how much I stress that, is that people just want to write so much. And people have a tendency to believe that if they aren't completely sure about something, if they write more words, it'll look like they're smart. Or if you write big words, right, that you're going to think that, or your reader's going to be like, oh, this kid clearly knows what he talks about. He wrote a full page. But we see through that, I promise. I graded short answers tests this summer for College Board, and these were the most frustrating. Okay, these are the worst ones, the people that believed that more words always equaled a better score. And at the end of the day, that's just not true. And so what I'm going to always write for you, and where you're going to see written on your paper probably at some point throughout the year, is my favorite word in writing. It's so fluffy. So I will at one point write down fluff or fluffy. That is something that is just a piece of information that you put in there just to sound smart, or something in there that's just unnecessary. Right? You can make very intelligent points, but if you're not backing it up with evidence, or you're just waxing eloquent about some random piece of information or a big idea, then it's not that important. So at the end of the day, remember, more words does not equal a better score, and actually oftentimes it makes it harder for me to find the right answer in there. So that all comes back to this same thing, this big idea that we want to get to the point. The value of your short answer comes in examples, okay? Examples, examples, examples. I cannot stress that enough. There is more value in an incorrect example than 5 introduction sentences, because introduction examples are not counted against you. No matter how fabulous you feel writing all of these really intense words and big ideas, incorrect examples are a much better usage of your time, I promise you. They are not counted against you. You could write on and on about something that isn't true, but if it's an evidence-based argument, it has a chance of getting a point at least. But just writing big ideas that are true, that aren't answering the question, will not get you the point. So fill your answers with examples. Like this practice that we're going to look at, I want you to think about examples of change instead of random overarching big ideas of what change is. So answer the question. Give examples. So at the front of the room, you see our poster that says help your reader see, S-E-E. We're going to talk about this throughout the year and have examples of it. And we'll get more into all 3 parts of it when we do the long essay and short answer, or long essay and DBQ. But for the short answer, I want you to think more about the 2 E's. And what those are going to be is your evidence and your explanation. Okay? So we're going to be focusing on all 3 of those. So first, stance is very obvious. You're just answering the question. This shouldn't be one you have to worry about too much with your short answer questions, because it kind of forces you to. You don't have a developed thesis in this, but you've got to be clear with what you're saying. So there's nothing wrong with restating your question. You want to do it briefly, but I would recommend restating. It cannot hurt you to do that. More importantly for short answers, once again, is SFI. That is specific factual information. Use that to prove your stance, because nothing you do matters without SFI, without specific factual information. You must use this or you are not going to get your points. I promise you that. And finally, explain. Sometimes you may make an example that doesn't make a lot of sense, but if you write out an explanation, I'll say, oh, that is a good answer. That shows really intense historical thinking skills, and I hadn't thought about that before, so well done. So explain to your reader. Tell your reader exactly why your evidence and stance answer the question perfectly. Don't assume that they will understand it. I promise you. I see several SAQs every time we do one. I'm like, why did they make that connection? So explain it to me. Show me. So last thing we want to do is let's look at a quick practice. This is the kind of question that you'll see on this period 1 short answer question test coming up. So I want you to see, you'll see this is one with a source. Use your knowledge of U.S. history to answer the following set of questions regarding the source. So remember, you're only going to have about 4 minutes for each one of these. So you've got about 4 minutes for each one of these questions. So if you spend time thinking about it, that wastes your time. Or I guess not, I don't want to say wasting your time, but that does make it more difficult for you to effectively get enough words down onto the page. So it's probably better for you to real quickly think about some evidence and an explanation and start writing instead of spending a lot of time outlining. So I would not waste your time outlining on these. And we're going to look into each one of these sections, especially looking at B and C. A is an example of author's interpretation, but I want to look a little bit more specifically at B and C. So let's look at part B. We don't want you to waste time on the big picture, I guess the huge overarching picture, things that everybody's going to know. Like Native Americans had lived for millions of years on their side of the world, unbeknownst to the Europeans. Like, obviously, everyone knows that, right? Every single person is going to know that. So what we want you to do is hit the details, be specific, fill in why that is there. So use details to explain this. Everyone knows this. What they need to know, or what you're going to write, is this. Okay, so after contact, Europeans benefited from numerous new plants and animals like corn, potatoes, and alpaca, which shifted their lives. New crops led to a population expansion and strengthening trade throughout the world. You notice there, I give 3 specific pieces of evidence: corn, potatoes, and alpaca. All of these shift European lives. New crops led to population expansion and strengthening of trade throughout the world. You've got evidence right here, here, and here, and you've got explanation right here and right here. Right? I've got multiple things that would get me the points there. I've got several examples, several explanations, and I did it all in about 2 sentences. Right. So let's look at part C, which was the impact on Native Americans. I'm going to look at 3 different examples. I want you to tell me which one of these gets the point. Okay, so pause it right now, think about it, go through each one of these. You think about which one gets you the point, and then come back in about 30 seconds, and I'll tell you which one it is. Okay, so the first one, Native Americans didn't know this, but coming to them soon was a big change. Change came from Europeans. It brought good from all over the world. The natives were very impressed by the Europeans. Europeans loved this and thought of themselves as superior. Does this get the point? No. There is no evidence. No evidence in the first one. So 1 does not get the point. Number 2, the horse is an example of change during 1491 to 1607. Because of the addition of the horse, the natives could travel further, hunt more effectively, and trade with other nations more easily. This is a beautiful answer. This is the kind of short answer question that brings tears to my eyes. So absolutely, this does not waste a single word of those 2 sentences. They get exactly to the point. The horse is an example of change. You both give your stance and your evidence in about 11 words. That is beautiful. The next sentence is your explanation. Because of the horse, the natives could travel further, hunt more effectively, and trade with other nations. Beautiful. And 3, change is a big deal. The Spanish brought a bunch of green, slimy aliens to the natives, which then massacred both sides with ray guns. Aliens are awesome. Besides aliens, horses were another example of change for the Native Americans. Aliens brought the horse to the world, but eventually the Spanish got it. The Europeans brought the horse to the Amerindians, whose society shifted as they were able to travel further, trade easier, and hunt more effectively. I love aliens. No matter how ridiculous that answer is, no matter if I read this and say, what is wrong with this student? Because I probably would think that. It is correct. It gets the point. I don't love that that counts for the College Board, but it does. Why? Even though it has all of this ridiculous stuff about green slimy aliens, it also talks about horses. Talks about the horse being brought to the New World, the Europeans getting it, the Europeans bringing it to the Amerindians, whose society shifted as they were able to travel further, trade easier, and hunt more effectively. I can knock out the rest of this answer and only look at this part, and it's got the answer. It's there. It gets the point. So to review, you're going to have about 4 minutes per question, right? Per A, B, and C. You need to write in full sentences. Incorrect info is not counted against you, right? So use examples instead of big fluffy sentences. Do not be Shaq. Be Ray Allen. Be specific, get to the point, and get your point. Give specific evidence, and then explain to your reader specific factual information. These are things that probably need to be capitalized, right? A specific factual information, vocab term. And use that time that you have for those evidence and examples rather than wasting your time on intro sentences and thesis development. So We'll take some time as we move forward from here in class to really do some more practice with these, and you're going to get a lot of practice throughout the year. So I'm counting on you all. Hope that we can really start to understand these quickly so we can move on to the more complex writing. See y'all in class.